Today I am here with Mr. Girish Pradhan, the Secretary for Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Good morning, sir. Thank you for talking to Panchabhuta. India was the first country to have a separate ministry for the new and renewable energy. As the Secretary, can you please tell us a little bit about MNRE and your vision?
Well, thank you very much. India was the first country in the world to have a separate dedicated department, first of all, way back in 1982, which shows, of course, great foresight and vision on the part of the Government of India, where a separate department was carved out in 1982 called the Department of Non-Conventional Energy. This was later on in the 90s changed into a full-fledged ministry and became the Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Resources with a minister and a regular department. And in 2006 the name Non-Conventional Energy was changed and replaced by New and Renewable Energy, which I think is a much better reflection of the area of operation for this ministry. We are probably the only ministry in the world which is dedicated purely to renewable energy sources, and it's a ministry with it's an infrastructure ministry today with a very strong scientific base. So both the things are very important. As far as the vision is concerned, I definitely feel that renewable energy would be the future. That's undeniable, and I think it's something that everybody knows. I feel that if you look at it in terms of a timeline, then during the short term we would like to supplement the conventional sources of power with renewable resources, and in the medium term try and substitute. And of course the long term, which is the long term vision, is that we replace to the extent possible conventional sources of energy with renewable sources. So this is basically in short a kind of a roadmap for the future and the distant future. So that's about the vision that I personally have, and I think the government is already working along these lines.
What do you think has contributed to the growth of renewable energy in India, and how has the country been consistently able to surpass its targets in renewable energy?
Well, I personally think that the first major contributor is Mother Nature. That's the basic major contributor. Mother Nature has been very kind, has blessed us with diverse renewable energy resources. We have solar radiation, which is one of the highest in the world. We have wind resources. We have small hydro, we have large hydro too, and all other renewable resources. So the first contribution, of course, is that of Mother Nature. The second is government's foresight in terms of appreciating the fact that renewable sources need to be tapped, and whatever are available need to be tapped. And this, like I mentioned a little earlier, this has been brought into light by the fact that you dedicated a totally separate ministry to look after the development of renewable sources. So that's the second, is the government's foresight, government's backing throughout the period. The third, of course, has been the various policy and regulatory framework that was put in place by government to encourage the development of renewable sources. A major contributor on renewable resources and development of renewable sources is the private sector. Unlike the conventional power side, where the development has been led to a large extent directly by government or semi-government public sector organizations, the private sector has come in a very big way and actually is a major contributor to this success. So that's why we have been able to achieve over 25,000 megawatts today in renewable sources in terms of the total capacity of the country, which is contributing to almost 12% of the installed capacity on the power sector side.
The 12th plan envisages a 29,800 megawatt grid interactive and 3,267 megawatt of off-grid power generation capacity in addition from renewables. What kind of capacity building initiatives has MNRE undertaken for this?
Let me give you a little background. You know, we have achieved over 25,000 megawatts by the end of the 11th plan, and we have initiatives in place in terms of wind, solar, small hydro and bio, which put together would approximately add 30,000 megawatts in 5 years, in the coming 5 years. This is basically being built on the substructure of the various regulatory and policy mechanisms that have been put in place, the frameworks that have been put in place in terms of direct interventions like the renewable purchase obligation, which obliges the distribution companies to source a certain percentage of their total power from renewable sources. So that is one of the major contributors. The others are in terms of the various incentives that are targeted, the various tax concessions that are given, the various other support in terms of research and development, and the propagation of various renewable sources. A major contribution we feel would be provided by the fact that renewable energy provides a very, very quick and easy way of providing access. As you know, a large part of the country, population of a large part of the country doesn't have access to energy, and that's a major problem in our country. And how quickly and how easily we can provide this access will contribute in a large manner to how much you can lift people from the state in which they are. And one of the essentials would be, of course, to provide energy access. So these are some of the underlying reasons why we feel that a target of almost 30,000 megawatts in the next 5 years, which, mind you, is more than the present capacity that we've added since 82. Since 82 we've added 25,000 megawatts, and we intend to do almost 30,000 megawatts in the next 5 years. So this is basically our aim.
So not only is the focus on grid connected and large scale energy and power plants, but you're saying that off-grid and energy access is also a very, very important mandate that you're addressing from a social perspective.
Very crucial. It's very crucial, and it is part of our strategy. So whereas the major grid connected aim of putting up almost 15,000 megawatts of wind, 10,000 megawatts of solar, and another 5,000 of bio and small hydro. Quite apart from that, there would be a large chunk, as you mentioned, over 3,000 megawatts, and we hope we can do a higher figure in terms of providing off-grid solutions and addressing issues of access.
MNRE has said that India plans to invest $50 billion in renewable energy, including 19 billion in wind over the next 5 years. How do you plan to achieve this in terms of investments?
Well, the point is, like I mentioned earlier, the renewable sector has been largely led by the private sector. So the investments have come in from the private sector. And we, like I mentioned, have a target of almost 15,000 megawatts through wind energy. Now, if you translate that at 6 to 6.5 crores megawatt, it will come to a figure which is somewhere in the region of 90,000 crores. So that would be a large chunk of what you were talking about. Then there is solar, where we are aiming at 10,000 megawatts. So that adds another say around 60 to 70,000 crores. Quite apart from that, the outlay that we hope to get from the Planning Commission this time around would be something to the tune of 20,000 crores. Now this represents a quantum jump from the outlay that was provided in the 11th plan for the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which was something around 4,800 to 5,000 crores. So from that figure, we are going to a figure of 20,000 crores, which is a quantum jump, and also is indicative of the seriousness with which the government is looking at renewables over the 12th plan. So I feel that this particular amount that has been mentioned is a possibility in terms of partnering with the private sector and a certain amount of FDI that we expect to come into renewables. Well, I had mentioned earlier about the renewable purchase obligation. The government has also put in place a renewable energy certificate regime, which is tradable and which can be used in case actually renewable energy is not available to a DISCOM. So that DISCOM can definitely, and other people who have an obligation to purchase renewable energy, they can go into the exchanges and purchase the renewable energy certificates, where the trade would pick up to the extent that we would be able to push renewable purchase obligations further. And in this connection, the state regulators have been regularly met with by us. We have been having regular meetings and interactions with them, and they are also now quite serious about pushing the renewable purchase obligations. We intend to take it from the present level of around average of 3 to 6% amongst the states to almost 15% as a nation. So that's what we intend to take it to by 2020. The others are in terms of incentives that the government is providing. We will be continuing hopefully with the generation-based incentives which have been available to certain sectors like wind. So we intend to take this forward in the 12th plan. So all in all, the policy parameters, the policy framework, the regulatory framework and the incentive framework all put together gives us a sense of confidence that by the 12th plan we will be able to achieve what we have set ourselves as a target.
You have earlier said in an international forum that you'd like to see at least $7.5 billion come in as FDI in the sector over the next 5 years, which looks highly possible. And there has also been a talk to set up an investment promotion cell inside MNRE. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, first of all, the investment promotion cell is already set up. We have a joint secretary who is in charge of that, plus we have a regular cell on the investment promotion side. The other issue is with regard to the figure of 7.5 billion. You see, if you compare it with the total figure that you had mentioned earlier of approximately $50 billion, we are expecting at least the minimum of 7.5, which translates to roughly around 30,000 crores to come in from foreign investors. The reason for this is not just a hope, it's also because of the interest that we have seen amongst foreign investors in not just the interactions we've had with them abroad, where we've taken many of our players and had interactions with investors in London. We've had investor meetings in South Africa and other places too. So that's one aspect. The second is actually the amount of investment that has been coming in, especially on the solar side. We've had a number of foreign players who've come and invested. On the wind side also there have been some. So we are expecting that the interest shown over the last 4 or 5 years, especially over the last 4 years, will not just continue, will grow, and we will be able to at least come up with a figure of around approximately 35,000 crores from a foreign direct investment.
Are there any considerations to raise funds in India through issue of tax-free green bonds?
Well, we are in consultation and in discussion with the Ministry of Finance. As you know, the Ministry of Finance has to agree to proposals of tax-free bonds. We have been in communication with them, and we have been discussing this issue with them, basically to allow our financing institution, IREDA, as you know, the IREDA, the financial institution of the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, to raise funds from the market through tax-free bonds. We are quite hopeful that we'll be able to convince the Ministry of Finance. So we are quite hopeful that some form of tax-free bonds would be possible in the near future.
Given that IREDA is the nodal agency for a lot of the financing activities that MNRE is planning, is there plans to infuse capital into IREDA? Are there plans to take IREDA to a bigger scale? I mean, how do you envision IREDA moving?
Yeah, first of all, we are expecting them to be able to raise some tax-free bonds. The second is that we have planned over the 12th plan to infuse more capital. Could be anything close to 500 crores, so that they get more muscle power and are able to then leverage funds and finances which would flow into the renewable sector. But quite apart from IREDA, we are finding a very new and a very welcome initiative also from the power sector financing institutions, which are specialized like the Power Finance Corporation and the Rural Electrification Corporation. In fact, I understand that the Power Finance Corporation has set up a separate vehicle which is aiming and which is focused on renewables. The REC, of course, has not set up, but they are also focused on it, and they intend over the next 5 years, the 12th plan, to take a much more aggressive stand in terms of financing. Besides that, we have been sensitizing the banking community across the board. We have had 2 field trips which we organized for bankers. We took them to various sites where renewable sources were being tapped and fed into the grid, to show them actually how the whole thing works, and to familiarize them with this aspect which they don't seem to have so much of knowledge of. So, you know, the financing institutions are constrained by the fact that their knowledge on renewable sources was limited. So it was not a question of their being against renewables or anything like that. It was just a question of not being familiar. So we've tried to address that. We've taken 2 groups of bankers, and that has been highly successful. We've got reports. And I understand from many of my interactions with public sector banks and even some of the private sector banks, that they are now quite convinced that funding renewable energy sources of energy would be not just a good thing, but would also make economic and financial sense.
Sir, you had earlier just talked about REC and their interests. So, could Energy Access be supported by REC, given that there is some overlapping mandate, and would collaborative efforts be possible there?
We are already collaborating with them under the RGGY.
Correct.
We are already collaborating with them. Those villages, those areas where the grid, it's not possible for the grid to reach, we are already taking those over and providing them off-grid solutions. So under the same scheme, it is under the same scheme, and we are already collaborating with them. Now, sorry, how do you take that forward would be something that would need need to be seen over the next few months. And definitely our interactions with REC have shown that they are very enthusiastic about collaborating and cooperating with us on the issue of access, especially in rural areas.
Can you elaborate on the initiatives going on for fast tracking of renewable technologies in India? You earlier said that fast tracking is very important of renewable technologies.
Yeah, well, what we have done in terms of the R&D side is that we have now organized ourselves to create a network of leading institutions in India, all the leading IITs, universities which are at the top in terms of research and development, and network them such that their efforts at developing renewable sources, trying to do some research on certain aspects of renewable energy are supported by us and are coordinated by us. We would also, we are in the process, of course, of seeing that if everybody comes on the same platform, if there's a network, then there's very little chance of duplication, of replication, and advantages in terms of what one university or one institution has done would then flow to the others, and you would be able to progress much faster. So this is something that we are now already doing. This is underway.
As the Indian wind energy market leads the growth and financing requirement goes multifold, what kind of platform does MNRE provide to national and international stakeholders? Anything additional that you would like to talk about?
Well, as far as wind is concerned, let me tell you, wind is the major player right now in our family of renewable resources. Out of 25,000 megawatts, 17,000 plus is through wind energy. Again, like I told you, over the 12th plan we are envisaging 15,000 megawatts more to come from wind. So wind is the lead player, and there are two things, like in a family, the eldest son or the eldest daughter, reaches maturity, and then maybe for a short while the attention of the parents is towards the second and younger children who require much more of attention. But that doesn't mean that the eldest son or the eldest daughter, which in this case is wind, is neglected or is being overlooked. I mean, but that has reached a certain maturity. Definitely in terms of wind energy, we are looking at issues which will impinge and are already impinging on the more rapid and more intensive development of wind energy in the form of an evacuation plan. You see, transmission and evacuation is a major issue in wind, where concentrations of wind energy are coming up. This is already being faced in some areas. It will become even more problematic as we go on. So we are already addressing that. The Power Grid Corporation of India has just done a very intensive and extensive report about the evacuation and transmission lines that will have to be now invested in. If we don't do that, we'll not be able to tap anything. It will get bottled up. There will be a lot of problems, and finally may lead to a lowering of the investment that is coming in. So these are areas that we are addressing. I'm trying to tell you this so that you get an appreciation of the fact that as the intensity of exploiting wind energy resources increases, at the same time we provide avenues where this power would be much more usefully and smoothly transmitted and evacuated. So that's some of the things that the wind sector would be looking forward to. At the same time, like I mentioned earlier, we feel that there is a certain amount of incentives that need to be provided for at least another short period, and therefore we intend to try and take the GBI in the 12th plan forward. We are already in the process of trying to get that pushed forward.
Thank you, Mr. Pradhan. It's indeed a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you
for your time, sir.
Thank you.